the first time I've ever seen a twist-off champagne.
Oh, it's a twist-off.
That will be.
I think it has to do with being on the ship.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't committed that to memory.
On as well.
Okay.
Salmon.
All right.
Okay.
So we can probably start while he's making those, right? I think.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, him bringing a drink.
Yeah.
What's he bringing?
So I'm going to talk about a drink, and he's making a kind of an approximation of that drink because I showed him my ingredients, and he took a picture of it, which was awesome. So I kind of picked a representative drink that I like to make, and was going to kind of talk about it, and then talk about why I like it.
Okay.
And then I showed him the ingredients, and he's like, I can make a version of it. It won't be exactly the same, but.
Wow.
Thank you
That's
guys.
exactly how much time we have.
Yeah.
I had originally wanted this to be a demo, and that didn't really work out because COVID, I can't really use a bar here, but this gentleman is nice enough to make me a close approximation of the drink that I'm going to talk about, which is called If Nana Only Knew.
Oh.
It's a good
Called
one.
what?
It's called If Nana Only Knew.
If
There's a little bit of
Nana
a story to
Only
that.
There's a story behind
Oh.
But I did want to tell you first of all that I'm not a bartender, not a professional. I'm just somebody who likes to make cocktails. So if you want to talk to an expert, talk to an expert. But these are some of the things that I've picked up, just kind of making things on my own and talking to bartenders. And like I told you too, but I'll tell the group. I always was a beer wine drinker, and then Paul and I went to Dublin with Mary Jo Foley, and we toured the Jameson distillery. And when we toured the distillery, at the end of the tour, they give you a cocktail.
it. Well,
And-
they give you an option.
A
And I
shot.
said, why on earth would I get a cocktail in Ireland?
Just gonna drink it straight.
He got a nice little glass of Jameson. I got
Oh,
a nice,
Jameson.
Yeah, I got a nice cocktail, and I was like, I could probably make this myself. So
Okay.
that's how I got
Okay.
started. I'd still like to make a lot of whiskey and bourbon-based cocktails, a lot of vodka cocktails. So I'm just heavier into some of the alcohols that we like better. So the one, If Nana Only Knew, has a story because it's grapefruit juice heavy. That's the one that our guy here is making for us to try. We live on a little circle, and Nana is our neighbor's Nana,
Okay.
who still sends him a crate of citrus every Christmas. Well, did until last year when she sadly passed away.
Right.
But kind of it's like a tradition from
Right.
way back when.
Right.
And he and his family were kind of too polite to tell Nana they only really liked the oranges. So we would take all the grapefruit. We would actually take the grapefruits and the oranges, and we would juice them all, and we give them back the orange juice, and then keep the grapefruit juice for ourselves. And I really like the grapefruit juice, so this If Nana Only Knew is I always make my drinks in parts because then you can just scale up or down depending on how much you want to make.
Okay.
So it's 2 parts, sorry, my notes here. 2 parts either whiskey or bourbon, 2 parts grapefruit juice, 1 part of maple simple, which is 50-50 maple syrup and water. You just
Okay.
heat it up a tiny bit, so just enough so it mixes.
Okay.
He's actually going to make it with honey simple instead because he doesn't have maple, but that should be interesting. And then 1 part of lemon juice.
Okay.
And I like to use 2 different kinds of bitters, the Peychaud bitters and the Angostura bitters,
Okay.
just because I like bitters a lot, so I shake those
Okay.
all right in there. He only has 1 kind of the bitters, so we'll have an approximation. I also make it with egg white. He doesn't have egg white, so that's going to be a pretty big difference.
That's
But
a huge difference.
I think it's
Okay.
still going to be a
Okay.
good cocktail.
Why is it, what's the deal with the egg white?
The egg white is super interesting because the protein of the egg white's kind of like blends all the flavors together.
Right.
Like, and one thing I was gonna say it's later, but the tip I have is like if you want to start making cocktails and you want to try one, make one without the egg white, and then make the same cocktail but with the egg white. And it's like amazing. It puts a nice little white layer of foam on the top that's really pretty, but it's kind of amazing. It's like
Transforms it.
Does it
the
change
sugar isn't as
consistency?
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little tiny bit thicker, but mostly it makes a foam on the top, and that's the
Okay.
change in the
But
consistency.
as you drink it, you get a little bit of both. So you get the foam on the top and the bottom. And what's the big one that is supposed to have egg whites but often doesn't in bars?
Like whiskey sours. Any kind of a sour. A properly made sour should have egg white. It changes it the same way, and I don't think you were there, but the port, the way you tasted something and you tasted the port and how
Right.
it changed the flavor of it,
Right.
it has that same effect
Okay.
on whatever it is you're drinking. So it's really interesting. So to make them side by side is kind of a cool thing to do. Like, it's like the sweet isn't as sweet, the sour isn't as sour, and everything it's harder to pick out the components with with a drink with egg whites. It's like you can't identify exactly what's in it, but they all come together really nicely.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so he's making us those. So I guess what I wanted to talk about is what I think makes like this cocktail or really any cocktail good is number one is like the ingredients, you know, good stuff. I mean, I don't mean like take your most expensive bottle of whiskey that you paid $200 for
Right.
for a cocktail, no, but like Jameson, you know, make
Right.
something with like a decent,
Or
you know.
actual fruit over packaged
Over
juice.
juice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was squeezing citrus juice with one of those electric things where it's like, and we finally went to a restaurant supply store and bought like a proper press where you cut the things in half and you like squish it down.
That's all what the guy asked.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
In the store, the guy was like, "Do you want a bar or a restaurant?"
I just really like to make cocktails. It was like, nice.
Serious.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So like citrus, like you can squeeze your own. It's
Right.
kind of a lot of work. It comes out great. But you can also like, I don't know where you all live, but like we have Wegmans and Whole Foods, and you can buy fresh pressed juice in the kind of usually the salad produce
Right.
area, like not the stuff that's shelf stable, but the chilled stuff in a refrigerator.
Right.
It's
good.
kind
It's
of
expensive,
expensive, but it's really good, and it makes a big difference in your drink. So I would
I
say,
believe that.
you know, like this drink is good because it has like fresh squeezed grapefruit juice and fresh squeezed lemon juice, not a bottle of something that, you know, not the bottle that is shaped like a lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same with like the maple simple, or he's got honey simple. It's, you know, like use maple syrup that you buy that's called 100% maple syrup. I like the kind that's a little bit darker that you probably wouldn't want on your pancakes, but you would
Okay.
want in your cocktail.
Okay.
And you
Okay.
just like 50-50. It's so easy to make. It's easier to make maple or honey simple syrup than
real simple
regular simple syrup.
Yeah. Okay.
Because regular is 50-50 with sugar, usually 50-50. Sugar plus water,
Yeah,
you have
then
to
you
boil it
heat
and
it.
then let it cool.
Yes.
And like with honey or maple, you can honestly like, if I get a jar of honey that's halfway empty, fill it up the rest of the way with water, put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds, put the cover back on and shake it.
Oh, really? Okay.
And now, you know,
Okay.
yeah, it's good to go.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
a good little tip right there. Okay.
Yeah, yep. So ingredients, these ingredients. Oh yeah, and then like the bitters. I mean, typically with this drink, I use the Peychaud's and the Angostura bitters. Those are like your classic. Like
Right.
every bar will have those kind of bitters. But you can also, like you were saying, you can buy other bitters that are like citrus, orange, ginger.
Wow.
What else?
Well, you were gone, and I used citrus, or I guess orange bitters, to make an old fashioned, just to give it that orange component, because I was too lazy to
Right.
peel an orange or whatever.
Yeah, so any of those. And I also I like to play around with different bitters. Oh, chili. Chili's an interesting bitter to play around with. Just a couple drops that you don't really taste the heat, but it like gives the drink a
Okay.
little bit more
Okay.
complexity. Those are really good. Often with a cocktail, especially if it's something like on the rocks or with like a big ice cube, I'll put like just one more dash of bitters on the top because I really like the aroma of the bitters. So it's like, and you see the color a little bit. It's pretty.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Which also reminds me, I did want to talk about ice a little bit because, you know,
We only use glacier ice.
yeah,
As of now.
Yeah.
All right.
right, exactly. Smuggling some home. It's nice with like a whiskey-based cocktail or anything. Well, really anything you're going to serve on ice to do a big ice cube.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can easily get these trays like on Amazon that have, I think they have 8. They're probably.
Yeah.
I would say the 2-inch size is perfect because the 2.5-inch size won't fit in your glasses.
Also,
It
as
seems
opposed
cool.
to circular,
Really?
because those are impossible.
The circle
Okay.
ones
Fill
look really
properly.
pretty, but you have to like screw this thing on, fill it through a little tiny hole this
Yeah.
big, make sure they're like properly balanced in your
Are you
freezer.
kidding?
They're beautiful,
I was
but
gonna say I gave everybody one of those for gifts a couple years ago.
Did you?
They're hard to
Yeah.
use.
Then we'll, yeah. I think
Why
I
would
get one
those
to
be
low.
different than ones that are not circular?
Just because a cube it just fills right up, so it's normal.
Okay.
It just fills up normally. But
Okay.
if you think about a globe, you have to get the top somehow filled in, so it's a little hole, and
Okay.
it's just a little harder.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, another good tip. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because you'd have to really you could really only make a half circle
Yeah.
without
Gotcha.
making it
Some sort of
complicated.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can probably get that in any gourmet store.
Oh yeah, you can get them on
Okay.
Amazon.
You got them,
Yeah.
rubber ones,
Okay.
they're cheap. Yeah.
Okay.
Now on the
Rubber
flip
makes it easy
side,
to-
you can also get ice cubes that make little tiny ice cubes that you would think would be awesome, like almost like crushed ice. They're terrible. Like
Really?
they're just a pain. You can't only get like when you go to get them out, you have to dump them all out and
Well, you crack it open and it explodes.
Wow.
So you think the crushed ice from the refrigerator is really bad?
no, I think the crushed ice in the fridge is fine. I don't have an ice crusher
Okay.
in my refrigerator,
Okay.
so I was looking for a better way to do
Okay.
that. But I
Okay.
think the crushed ice from your fridge is like perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
crushed
It just
ice.
doesn't look as pretty as that. Getting those big
It
cubes.
depends on the kind of drink you're gonna make.
Okay.
If you want like a drink that you have ice on,
Okay.
like personally, I think I don't know, like a lot of like the fruity cocktails. Like if you're gonna make like a Cosmo, I don't know, that could go either way. But taller drinks or like the Tinto de Verano, that we make this drink that's like white wine mixed with either like a lemon soda or a lemon seltzer. You want a lot of ice in it. Like a nice crushed ice is perfect for that.
Okay.
I kind of like if you're gonna. Some bartenders probably have rules for this, but I think if you're gonna serve it without ice in the glass, I like to just shake it with a lot of ice.
Okay.
And I learned from a bartender you should put a ton of ice in the shaker,
Okay.
and then one drink in the shaker.
Okay.
Don't try to cheat,
Don't
because
try to do-
I was like,
That's
how
that
come it's
surface. You get it's
Yeah.
like that ice field
Right,
surface. It's
right.
amazing, and we couldn't figure it out.
I was
we
like, how do
couldn't
you
figure
do
it out.
this? We couldn't figure it
Yeah,
out.
so we finally asked. It's fill it as much as you can with ice, shake it.
Okay. Okay.
You'll straighten it out. Yeah.
And then you get those tiny, tiny little pieces of ice like floating in your drink. The other thing you should do if you're making that kind of drink is chill your glass. You'll see bartenders do this a lot of places. Like we saw that bartender. Oh, here come our drinks. It's exciting.
Cheers.
Cocktails.
Cheers.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Here, here. Here, here.
And Kent. Don't forget Kent.
Oh yeah.
You can't.
Let me see how it is.
Ooh, very close.
There you go.
The lemonade.
Only the egg.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you.
Let me
Nice.
know if you need more.
Okay, thank you so much.
Nice.
It's kind of a lemonade.
This is actually very easy. Yeah, this is a nice, easy, smooth.
Yep.
drink.
Shandy-ish.
I like more like grapefruit, lemon, lime, like tart
good.
cocktails more than like sweet cocktails. So.
That's very
This
nice.
is real
So,
nice. I
yeah.
could imagine this in a slushy too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you'll see.
That's
So what
good.
else do I want to tell you? Oh, because we were talking about egg whites. So what's different about this one is he doesn't have the egg whites, and he swapped out. He only had the one of the types of bitters.
Okay. Okay.
So if you make this one on your own, this would be a good one to try. Like try it
Okay.
like this, and then try it with the egg whites, which just
Okay.
kind of like smooths everything.
Okay.
When you make a cocktail with egg whites, this was another thing I didn't know at first. You put all your ingredients in your shaker with your egg white in your shaker,
Oh, really?
but not your ice.
Okay.
And then you shake it a lot. You'll feel it kind of almost like push the lid off of your shaker because it gets so foamy really briefly.
egg white, yeah.
Yeah. And then you take the lid off, put a towel, because you make a mess when you make cocktails.
Kitchen is just
Right.
You don't want to start with a towel.
Yeah.
Put down your towel, and then when you open it, add your ice, and you shake it again. And then you pour it out
Okay.
without the ice. If you make something with egg whites, you don't keep the ice in the cocktail. You have it like this without the ice.
So which bitters are in this?
I'm not sure. I think he just has the pastries, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check with him.
It looked like he left it on the top bubble so you could get a
little bit of red.
Right.
Yes, it has a little bit of the red.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to repeat that. So if you have egg white, you put the egg white in the shaker and you shake it.
Egg white plus your cocktail ingredients.
And your cocktail ingredients.
But no ice.
No ice. And
Yeah.
then you put the ice in and you shake it again.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
you pour it out into your glass after that.
Without
how many
without
times
ice
do
in
you
it.
shake it?
Actually,
well,
I've wondered
mean,
that
right,
before.
right, yeah.
Because
So
We count
until the
every time
until
we're in
the
a bar, we
outside
count.
of the the container gets icy?
Until it gets really cold. Two ways you can tell. Two things I've heard. Until it's like almost too cold to hold.
Okay.
It's hurting your hand
Okay.
almost, and it's cold enough.
Okay.
Or we talked to one bartender, and one place that she had worked, they said minimum 20 shakes. And she actually would have, her boss would count when she was shaking
We watched
cocktails.
it.
Really? Okay.
20 shakes
Okay.
was the minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one shake is
Yeah.
Yeah,
One,
and-
two.
okay. It's
Yeah.
not 1, 2.
No, that's yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The reason a lot of bars don't make cocktails with the egg whites is it takes twice as long.
Right.
Because you shake it without the,
Twice.
yeah, you know. They call it a dry shake when you shake it with just the egg white and I don't know why they call it dry, because everything in it is literally
still
wet.
there, okay.
But that's the name. It's called a dry shake, and then when you add the ice in, that's called the wet shake.
Okay.
Another thing, I haven't tried these yet, but I've had them at a friend's house. If you're kind of not on board with the egg whites because of, you're basically like eating a raw egg, you can buy them in cartons, like a carton of egg white, and I think they're like pasteurized.
They're pasteurized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. So you can, and
They're good.
they're good. And honestly, the one thing that you can be a little more like, you can give yourself a little more egg white to work with because you have a whole carton where it's like,
Right.
you're not like cracking one, doing the thing with the
Yeah,
shell
yeah.
to get rid of the yolk. you
Hate seeing
know?
a yolk go away.
I know. If you break the yolk, you ruin it. You have to get another one.
Right.
So that's egg whites. Let's see. That was on my list. Let's see. Oh. Drying, shaking. Shaken versus stirring. I think we talked about that a little bit, but my whole thing is like, if you're gonna serve the drink with ice, then I'll just kind of mix it up and pour it over the ice. But if you're going to serve the drink without the ice in the glass, that's when I will shake it and then pour it into a glass like this or whatever glass
Okay.
you want. You know,
Okay.
I don't know if that's
And
official.
so, if you don't want ice in it, what do you pour it through?
You'll have
Oh,
It's a strainer.
your shaker will have a
Just-
strainer.
okay.
Or you can buy, if you don't have that kind, you can put, I've never tried this, but you see maybe bartenders put like two glasses together, like a bigger one inside of a smaller one. And then you can buy like a circular strainer that has a tiny little handle on it. You put that on top of the glass and you pour it out with that. That works. Then my next tip is just to kind of like trust your palate, which is, you make a drink, you have an idea of what kind of ingredients you might want to put together, and you do it, and you think, maybe it's like, it needs a little more simple. It's not quite sweet
Right.
enough. It's not quite sour enough. It needs a little more alcohol. You're not really tasting whatever alcohol you have in it. And then when I get it kind of close to what I like, I think like, if somebody put this drink in front of me at a bar and I took a sip, would I be like, this is really good, or would I think, I don't know, like,
I would be very happy ordering this.
Me too.
I would
It's
be,
really good.
I'd be very thrilled if this
Yeah.
came to me.
yeah, like this one's a keeper for
Yes,
me.
it's a real keeper. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes you just taste a drink and you're like, it's just needs something else,
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't tell you what it is because we're not making drinks here today, but just trust yourself, like, okay. And my tip on that though is like, if you're making drinks, even if it's just for two people, I use like I think it's a 4-cup measuring cup, even if you're just only going to use a little bit, because that gives you plenty of room.
Right.
Because you can always be like, it needs more of this, it needs more of that.
Right.
As you go along, it will only need a little bit more of something, but at first you might be, this needs so much other stuff added that these are going to be saved for tomorrow because I was way off at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just kind of have to trust yourself, taste it. By the time you make your third cocktail of the night, nobody's gonna really care anymore.
Yeah, by then they're all good, right?
Yep. And then I actually, my other tip, this is my fourth tip is to make it pretty. Like, these are pretty. This guy brings these drinks over. It's nice. It's in a pretty
Lemon
glass.
slice is a nice touch.
I'm all about that, yeah.
I almost always put a garnish in any cocktail, and it can be a slice like this, just as simple as a lemon wedge. The peels, they do like a peel of a lemon or a lime or an orange and float that on the top. Cherries, you know, maraschino, like the dark red cherries or the bright red cherries. I don't know what else are used as garnish. Those are my main go-to garnishes. But I just think it feels like a cocktail more than just like a rum and coke.
Right, yeah.
You know, put something in there, make it look pretty. You know? And then I guess my next thing I was going to say is a lot of cocktails that you make, you can batch up. You can make, you know, a bottle this size full and take it to a friend's house. The cocktail, this one that we're having, because it doesn't have the egg white, you could bottle that up and then just like shake it when you get to somebody's house. So it's like a nice thing to bring.
That's actually
That's a really
good
fun
idea.
idea.
It's really fun. People love it.
We saw people do this at a restaurant. We did bring your own booze kind of state or whatever.
Oh,
And
that would be
a
really.
lot. One time we were in a restaurant. These people came with almost with a martini set. It was crazy. They made mixed drinks right at their own table. It was
Yep.
yeah.
As long as you don't have the egg whites, you can't really do that way. Or anything with like a sparkling. If you do like champagne, prosecco, something like that,
You lose.
you can't really bottle that ahead of time. But like anything like this. So one of the ones I really like to make is an espresso martini, because you can bring that over to somebody's house after, and it's super easy. I do it with like, actually I wrote it down in case I forgot, but it's 2 equal parts of vanilla vodka, Kahlua, and coffee. I always use decaf because it's the end of the day, so it's decaf time. But equal parts of all that stuff. Throw it in a bottle. Put it in your fridge or even in your freezer for a little while before you go. If you got like have dinner at somebody's house, and then all you have to do is shake it when you get there. And I usually throw like 3 little espresso. My garnish for that is coffee beans. So like 3 coffee beans on the top.
So that's vanilla vodka, Kahlua,
And coffee.
And coffee.
Yeah, it's so easy. Equal parts.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Super easy. And it's like you brought dessert.
Oh, it is. It
Yes.
is. It's really special. It's really different to take
Wow.
something like that.
Yep. What else can I tell you? Sangria. I like sangria. That's like, I don't know, is sangria really a cocktail? I don't know.
If it's got brandy in it, it would be.
I think it's a cocktail. And one thing, it's super easy. It's a fun one to play with because it's a good way to use, like, if you open a bottle of wine and you're like, don't love it, you know, don't really want to drink it on its own, maybe I'm not planning to cook with it, then you can be like, you know, you're good to go. This is a different drink.
Is it really? That's not it.
It's good, but it's not the same. But they're here now.
You know what? Maple makes it feel like a fall drink.
Okay.
I think the thing about honey is it's a little brighter. It's a little, you know, less winter.
Okay.
I think when you switch over to fall, winter, you start getting into the bourbon drinks. And,
Yep. Like that one you like, the Thanksgiving one has the maple and the cranberry and the cider.
Yes.
Like it makes
Yes.
it
That
into
is
like
so good.
And
a
it was
winter cocktail.
so good. It was such a winner.
yeah, that's completely different.
It's not the same drink.
So that wasn't me, it was her recipe.
This might be for another group.
Oh, I think they put them on my card. So.
Okay.
They're here now.
Or sweeter.
Yeah, it's a lot sweeter. Yeah. Well, what I was going to say more about sangria. Sangria is typically like your bottle of wine. It's usually 1/3 of a cup of brandy and 1/3 of a cup of some kind of a juice thing. And that's kind of like, but for a long time I thought like I always had to be like red wine.
Right.
But then we went to Spain one time, and it doesn't have to be red wine. It can be white wine.
Yeah.
It can be sparkling wine, and it doesn't really have to be brandy.
Okay.
It could be like I'll do it with like a triple sec, like any kind of like a fruity kind of an alcohol triple sec, Grand Marnier.
Also the sugar part, so we often make it with a lot less sugar than we
Right.
make it in a restaurant.
Really? Okay.
And then you're supposed to, you know, like you dice up all your fruit, and that you're really supposed to soak your fruit in the wine for like an hour or two before you serve it, so the fruit kind of absorbs a lot of the wine flavor. I don't usually go that far with it, but I like to add the fruit to it, and I like to, you know, like I said, substitute. If you substitute a Grand Marnier, you might not need any sugar in it, which is kind of nice. Like I don't like it super sweet, you know. So that's a good one. What else was I going to say about sangria? Oh, then we went to Mexico and we discovered like a cheap, easy version of sangria that's like what the locals drink, which is called the Tinto de Verano. which
Okay.
means like red wine of summer, my rough translation.
Okay.
And it's basically red wine with, it's roughly equal parts usually, most recipes I've seen. Either like a lemon soda, like a lemon fresca, or a lemon sparkling, like a seltzer. If you do it with the lemon seltzer, they often put a little bit of limoncello for a little bit more of a sweetness. And they'll usually serve it layered, so they put the soda in first, or the limoncello and seltzer first.
So you,
It's a
that
tall,
sounds
like a
really-
16-ounce glass, a tall glass full of ice.
Okay.
So lemon soda or limoncello on the bottom, and then the red wine on the top. So it looks really pretty. That's the whole way. I mean, it's super simple. And then after they serve it, like then you mix it so everything tastes good together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really good.
Okay.
Do I have anything else? I think I've hit my main points. Where are we at for time? I know we have to be downstairs. We have time. Okay. Bitters. We talk. Oh, these. Now I'm into my just random tips. Random tips.
We need random tips.
Yes. One random tip: if you're just making like a classic cocktail, just look up 3 recipes online, like the top 3 recipes, because they'll all be a little bit different. And then you're like, okay, this is kind of how you make this cocktail, and then you can go from there. And then you'll also sometimes learn really good things. Like I learned that if you make a nice pina colada, you just float a little bit of dark rum on the top of it after you serve it, which you never get it like that, and I don't think I've ever seen it like that out in the world. But it just puts it over the top. Like it just makes it really good.
Okay.
My other tip for pina coladas is if you really like making frozen drinks, get a good blender, like a Vitamix. I know they're super expensive. You can get them reconditioned. I bought a reconditioned one and I've had it for 5 years, and it's like going strong. Yes, they're not
Jet
cheap.
engine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I've
mean,
got one for a wedding.
yeah, it makes a difference. Like,
Yeah, I've never been able to do like a margarita or anything because I don't have a blender that. Yeah.
right, exactly. So if you really like, if you're into frozen drinks, and you can use it for smoothies and stuff too. It doesn't have to be cocktails,
right,
you know. But yeah, get a good blender. It's worth it.
Okay.
You know, you're not gonna have those. It's just not gonna have those little chunks of ice in it. It's gonna.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
If you know, now we're getting a little bit deep into it, but if you make drinks with your really good blender, sometimes depending on the fruit you use, like sometimes we make drinks with cantaloupe, and it gets really like frothy. So 2 tips for that is after you put your high-speed blend on it and you get it all pulverized, and then you put the blender on like the lowest possible speed, and it kind of just like, it's almost just doing this, and it kind of, all the bubbles go out to the surface and it smooths it out. And then the other thing to do is, if you know you want to use something like that, make that like in the afternoon and then let it sit, because a lot of the air will come out, and then because we'd be like, this tastes really good, but it's basically like a glass of foam. So
Okay.
It's at the bottom and lots of foam, and you drink it and it's gone, and then you're like, I have a glass of foam.
Yeah.
Which is not very appetizing.
Not what you wanted.
I think it's something that you already
And then my other tip, this is easy, but like, talk to bartenders, especially if you go when it's not that busy. I mean, they don't want to talk to you at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, but like, go to your favorite local bar for happy hour on Tuesday, when you're the only person there, and just ask. They love to talk about what they do. They love to talk. That's why they're bartenders.
that's why they're
They love what they do. Like, they're the perfect people.
Right.
You know, you just learn so much. Our favorite bar in Pennsylvania, I mean, they have weird ingredients all the time, so we're always just, every time you look at a cocktail, you're like, what is that? You know? And it's like, oh yeah, we buy the sake, but then we infuse it with pears ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
They'll start experimenting with you. They'll say, well, we're working up the menu for the next season. Let me give you a couple of things. Tell me what you think.
Oh,
You know, they'll
nice.
actually
You get to be
yeah.
part of
Yeah,
the
it's neat.
testing.
Yeah. Yeah, you get so much good information. I think I've learned pretty much everything I know from like talking to bartenders or looking things up online. Because you could literally Google, why is my melon cocktail so frothy?
Right. Someone has had this problem.
Right. You know. And then, yeah, we talked about syrup, we talked about bitters, we talked about the cider cranberry Thanksgiving cocktail that you like. And my only other tip, because this is not my favorite cocktail, but it was like, sometimes just be creative. Like the woman in the bar, we were in Newark before, we stayed overnight in Newark before we flew to Seattle. She had like 6 bottles of alcohol and 6 mixers behind her bar. And she's like, I can make you something from this. And so, but that's kind of what it's like when you're at home.
Right.
You know, you don't always want to go out and
Right.
we kind of had this interesting experience at the beginning of COVID where 49 of the states considered alcohol stores an essential business and kept them open. Our state disagreed.
That's interesting.
So you got to this point where you're like, I have to make a cocktail. Like, I just wrote this one down. It was like mango vodka, lime, coconut milk, and simple syrup. Because it was like, these were things we had in the house.
Yeah.
Right.
We were like, what are we gonna do with mango vodka? You know?
Mango vodka, wow.
It was a good. It wasn't one of my like make the top of the list fantastic cocktails,
make it
but
out of the
it was but it was kind of like, what can you do with what you have on hand? You can almost always make something if you kind of just think about how everything goes together.
Okay.
But that's what I wanted to talk about. Does anyone have any other questions?
Well, what's your favorite cocktail then?
What is my favorite cocktail? It kind of varies by the season.
Okay.
You know, like that first one I talked about, I put it on the list, the If Nan Only Knew, that's kind of like what he made us at first.
Right.
I really like that in the winter because we would always get those grapefruits for Christmas,
Yes,
and you make that, you know. I like things, I really like Baileys, so I like cocktails with Baileys in the winter.
Oh,
You know.
yes.
There's
I
an
like
Asian
sushi.
peartini that they
Yeah.
make at this bar that we like, and that's just,
A peartini?
it's an Asian peartini. So it's with Asian pear, vodka.
I'm really
Oh my
into
God.
sake, so she
Those
does
are-
you
something
are?
that she calls a sake tea,
Well, there you go, Diane.
which is probably my favorite.
Really?
The sakatini is 5 parts of sake. I use like a clear, not the cloudy kind, just like a clear sake with 1 part of a cucumber lime vodka, and then 1 part of like a citrusy alcohol. Like, I started making it with Grand Marnier, but the only reason I like the flavor of the Grand Marnier, but it gives it like a tiny bit of a brown color.
Okay.
So if you make it with like triple sec, it's perfectly clear all the way through. With like
I've
little
had
lime,
that
little
happen
cucumber.
where I've ruined cocktails because they were a color that was
Yeah,
really
it almost looks a
unappealing.
little.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it was like, oh, I don't really want to serve that to anybody.
Right.
To ask me if he's
Yeah.
ever had it.
We have a friend who makes his own alcohol. He makes a really nice whiskey, and
Is
if
that
like
right?
anybody does a shot, he's like, "No, this is not a shooter whiskey. This is
Yeah.
a sipping whiskey.
This is a
Yeah.
sipping
Yeah.
whiskey.
You're not
Okay.
respecting my efforts as a person who put 4 years into making this
Yeah.
whiskey."
Yeah.
Old school moonshiner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, this was really interesting, really fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
It's the first time I've done it.
You should continue.
Yeah,
It is a
absolutely.
lot of fun. You could get. I think that this could be a real big thing.
Yeah.
I could
Okay.
see.
Remember,
little
you are a
mixology.
writer.
I am a writer. Yes.
Ah.